So let me tell you, my mantra has been for a number of years, if I have the capability, then I have the responsibility. That phrase, that belief, those actions, that is my obsession. It doesn't matter what I touch. It doesn't matter what I read, what I see, what I do. It's about being obsessed with one thing. What is it? Everything I've touched is because if I have the capability, I have the capacity, the ability to learn something, do something, make something happen, then I have the responsibility to see it through. I have the responsibility to make a phone call, make an impact, make a decision that moves that needle. And so I'm going to talk more about what that really means. As a lifelong learner, right, I'd gone through physical therapy and all the reading and studying and the board exams, and then wealth management, all the exams and credentials. And, I've got like a near PhD in wealth management planning. Like, it was an obsession to learn, right? And what I found was learning and learning and learning and growing was that it became an obsession to push my knowledge base. It became an obsession to keep going beyond what I already thought I knew, right? And I've talked about this before, right? There's so many things I don't know, but I have the responsibility to learn it. And why I believe that is because I have the ability, right? I have the capacity to learn, right? The capacity is like what something can fill, right? It's like a bucket, right? A bucket's got X amount of gallons. That's its capacity, right? And so if I thought about my life as a bucket of water, right, and I was only half full or 3/4 full, or, maybe there's just a couple drops in it, right? I have this whole bucket to fill up with capacity. And for me, that's lifelong learning, right? Learning myself, learning my values, my beliefs. I've just directed the content of that bucket, but it's all about what my capacity is, right? And so if I have that capacity, get it to the max, then what do you do with it? Does it just sit in the bucket? No, man, you get a rag, you dip in there and you go wash something, or you take a scoop out and you give somebody a drink of water. It doesn't matter what it's for, but like, what do you do with it? When you've maxed your capacity, then you have to do something with it, right? That's my obsession. If I've got the ability to learn something, I'm going to go learn it. I'm going to go figure it out, and then I'm going to go do something with it because I owe it to myself because I learned it, right? But then I owe it to others that are within my reach. Like, that's the deal. And here's what's so crazy about this concept of if you have the capacity, of the responsibility. When you test your boundaries and you learn something new, you try something new, you have successes, all of a sudden that bucket gets a little bigger next time. So now you got to fill it up again, right? And so this bucket just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And that may seem totally overwhelming, right? But here's the deal. When you first start out, that bucket is like ice cold. You're filling it with freezing cold water. You're learning new things. You're testing your capabilities. It's uncomfortable, right? If you ever tried to jump in a cold plunge, like, it's freaking uncomfortable, right? But here's what's funny. As you work on it and you use the responsibility, the water starts to warm up, right? It gets warmer and warmer, more successes, more use of that capability, more responsibility, getting things done. The water starts to warm. So the bucket's like this, and it's maxed, and you've been sitting in it, swimming in it, and you're using it and you're paying it forward. And then the bucket gets a little bigger because now you realize, hey, like, that wasn't that bad. I got through that. Now it's on to the next thing, right? I'm going to add the next goal, the next, target. And so then the bucket just gets a little bit bigger. But what's funny is, right, you go from a 3-gallon bucket to maybe now it's only 4 gallons. And so you got to add a gallon of cold water. But here's what's so interesting about that. If you have 3 gallons of warm water and you add 1 gallon of cold water, ice cold water, right? The whole 4 gallons doesn't go instantly cold like it did when it first started. So like, you've taken those skill sets, those learnings, those opportunities, those responsibilities. And we talked about seeing opportunities, and the more opportunities you see, the more you take action on them, the more opportunities you see again, right? The opportunities just keep like compounding. So this bucket of water, this bucket of capability, it grows with you, right? And then if you take a moment and you look back and you say, look at how far I've come, you're measuring the gain, right? How far you've transcended and accomplished things. Like, you've got a really big bucket of like warm water. It's not super hot, but it's not freezing either, right? And you can just continue to warm that bucket, and then it grows, and then you keep doing it. So my obsession with pushing the limits of my capacity And the capacity is, again, what's the max amount? Pick anything, right? Like you go to a theater, it says max capacity, only so many people. It says max capacity on a bus. It doesn't, like, there's max capacity. That's the definition, right? Is what's the max? Your capability is to get to the max capacity of what your abilities are. And you're working on those. Those abilities have grown from when you first started. That becomes a springboard of the next set of abilities. And if you've taken the responsibility to like get to know those skill sets, get to know the things that need to get done, now your bucket's a little bit bigger. So when you look back at your life, you're like, holy shit, man, there's a lot of stuff I've gotten done. That is like my obsession. If I have the capability and the capacity, then I have the responsibility to see it through, right? And it's not because I like have all of these things I want to achieve. I have a lot, but like I'm only focused on one or two at the moment. But I know if I can get those done, I can get successful at those, then I can add on the next ones. I'm not trying to be the best at 15 things right now. The capacity for what you can get done gets bigger and bigger. And when you get more successful, you'll find you don't need to be the expert at everything, right? I'm not great at operations, right? I hire people to do that. That's not where my capacity lies. So I don't spend a ton of time there. I know what I don't know, but operations isn't my bucket. My bucket is like visionary, making the tough calls, like seeing what needs to get done, seeing what other people can't see, seeing opportunities other people don't see. That's my bucket. So every moment, every day, anything that comes across my desk, my phone call, my news feed, doesn't really matter. I'm like, is that an opportunity? That's my capacity. I am maxing that out. And if it is, then I go down that path. And if it's technical in detail, I'm finding someone that can get it done. But then I go back to my bucket. I'm like, what's the next opportunity? My obsession is finding out what my capacity and my capabilities are, with each new endeavor. The other thought I had too is like, how do you even get started, right? We talked about inspiration, motivation, obsession, right? It starts with just like 3 things a day. It's 3 small little things. You have an inspiration, pick 3 things that keeps the fire lit on the inspiration. And you do that consistently. Just do the math on that with me. You do 3 things every day towards your obsession, towards your goal. You're maybe not there, maybe not obsessed yet, but you're motivated. You're past inspiration. 3 things, you get those done. You get them done in the morning, right? There's a book called like Eat Your Frog First or something. It's like get the hard shit done first. You do those 3 things and you do it 7 days in a row. That's 21 things you got done in a week. 21. Think about it in a month. You did 3 things every day for a month, 4 weeks. That's 84 things. You could look back in a month and say, holy crap, I got 84 things done, right? Like that's more than I did the previous month. I only got like 6 done. Then you take 3 things times 365 days a year. It's 1,095 things you have checked off the list that moves you towards your obsession. That's crazy, right? Like almost 1,100 things you got done in a year, and it started with 3. Multiply that by 10 years. That's like 11,000 things you've gotten done, moving you towards your goal because you've been obsessed about it. That's powerful. The 10,000 hours makes you an expert, they say, right? Like 10,000 hours practicing piano, or 10,000, free throws, or 10,000 golf swings, or 10,000 pages in a book. 10,000, but that's 10 years. So this expectation that we're going to be uber successful instantaneously doesn't happen. How many videos you think Mr. Beast has done? Probably more than 10,000. For sure. But he did it every day. He did 3 things every day, probably, or maybe more than that, right? But like start with 3 and just every day, you just do 3 little things. 3 becomes 21, becomes 84, becomes 1,095 in a year. And in 10 years, it's 11,000 things that have moved you closer to achieving your goal. And if you have the obsession, and that's all has to be, is to get those 3 things done, in 10 years, you're going to be further along than you ever even dreamed possible. And so then you think about, why are most successful people successful in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, right? It's pretty rare. I mean, I guess social media has kind of been a little bit the abnorm with that. There's some 20-year-olds that are crazy successful, but they've probably done 10,000 videos, right? So like, you could probably go back to like, they just were obsessed about shooting videos and content. But like the super uber successful people that have built businesses, that have the things they want, they've done it 10,000 times. They've done 3 things every day at a minimum. They've done 10,000 things over 10 years, or 11,000 things. And then in 20 years, it's 22,000. In 30 years, it's 33,000. Like that's a lot of shit to get done. But if you were to say, hey, by the way, you want to be ultra successful, you need to do 33,000 things. Like nobody in their right mind would take that on. I try to dial it back to like, what are the 3 things I need to get done today? And I put those in my calendar. It's just what needs to get done. And sometimes it's not always work related, but like, it's like, hey, I got to spend time on the phone with my daughter, right? I haven't talked to her about, like, that's an important thing because I'm obsessed about being a good dad. It's not overly complicated. It's hard as hell. But I think if you can think about what inspiration means, what motivation means, what obsession means, and move towards those goals, find 3 things that you do and get obsessed with filling your bucket, with having capacity, figuring out what your capacity is, right? And you cut out the things that don't mean that much. Like if you want to be ultra successful, but you're spending 5 hours a day on Instagram or social media or this YouTube, like get the hell off it. You don't need to spend 4 hours. Like I set a timer. I've got a certain time limit every day on my social media. It locks me out. Thank God the iPhone has that feature. And I just found a new one. Like you can go grayscale on your phone. Like the apps in the notifications on your iPhone are designed to interrupt you, to get you addicted. I put everything on grayscale. Like my whole phone is all gray. Like I can't tell you when I get a notification, like, and then my social media times me out at a certain point, right? So like that was one thing I had to get done. And holy cow, did I get time back with that. And not just like physical time, like the minutes, I got mental energy back. I got emotional energy back. So find out what your obsession is. Mine is, if I have the capability, I have the responsibility, and I'm doing 3 things every single day to move the needle on those obsessions. Risk tolerance is like, what are you willing to stomach? What are you willing to tolerate? How much risk? And I think most of us go through the day like with the frame of mind of like, I can't tolerate that. I can't handle that. Like it's negative, right? Risk tolerance is negative.